Hello everyone, I am here at the Bible lesson, Standard Bible Lesson number 12, and this is the last one I have, unless my friend gets more and gives them to me. This one is called Holy Conflict, the first story. You know, people fighting in their marriages, and brothers and sisters fighting, mother-in-law and daughter-in-laws fighting, mother and daughter fighting, father and son fighting, conflicts. Conflict is always negative. There's never a positive conflict. But this one is by Charles W. Christian. I got my Starbucks coffee, my espresso. It's pretty good. I actually really like it. I just use a little bit of sweet and low in it. And it's got a really good taste. It's just a small bag. But my coffee pot does not get very hot. You think it's just because it's a cheap one? You think if I buy a better one that it'll make my coffee hotter? Because my aunt's coffee pot, when she gets a cup of coffee, it's like scalding hot. And hot for a long time, but mine's like lukewarm when it comes out. When I first pour it, it's like lukewarm. And then it gets cold really quick. I mean, that's how it's not that hot. So I didn't know if it's just because I had a cheap coffee pot or I don't know what's going on. I might try to get another coffee pot to see. Because the last two coffee pots I had, I got at the dollar store over there. And they've both been like this. Alright, so let me get started reading Holy Conflict for you guys. That's not what I meant. You never told me that. You lied to me. These phrases are often considered the result of conflict. However, they are actually most often uttered when healthy conflict, has been avoided. For most of us, the idea of conflict immediately creates butterflies in our stomachs and conjures images of broken relationships. However, in most cases, healthy conflict produces healthy relationships and lasting peace among people who are seeking to live and work together in community. Let's look at two common myths about conflict. Myth 1. Conflict is always negative. While conflict can be stressful, it need not be negative. Guess we were wrong, huh? Healthy conflict is comprised of willing participants who are open to listening to one another and seeking a compromise. When these characteristics are present, conflict can be restorative and healthy. In Matthew 5:21 through 26, Jesus reminded us that anger does not have to be the driving force of conflict between two or more people. Even if anger is present, responding by attacking the character of another, the meaning of raka in 5:22, then the opportunity for productive conflict is diminished. In other words, we sin when we attack someone's character in order to win a conflict. The biblical alternative, as expressed in passages like Matthew 18 verses 15 through 17, involves valuing the person involved enough to go to them in times of conflict, disagreement, or even correction. Conflict can arise out of anger, but anger should not be used as a weapon to squelch healthy communication and bring peace to the situation. Matthew 5:21 through 22. The purpose of conflict can be and should be to bring parties together, to reach Christ-centered, not selfish goals that are redemptive rather than shaming. See Matthew 18:15 through 18. And myth 2. Conflict should be avoided. Maybe not all the time. Let's see. Because conflict involves risks, fewer people relish the idea of engaging in conflict with one another. However, avoiding conflict risks increasing tension between people. This is why Jesus, in Matthew 5:23 through 25, spoke of settling matters of conflict directly and quickly. The Apostle Paul offered a similar reminder: do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold, because he's just waiting for that one little moment, and he will try to break through. When you're down, when your faith's not up, and when you're really down, the devil will step in quickly, try to destroy you altogether. Don't let that happen, guys. My friend told me, I always loved this. My best friend in school, she still one of my best friends today. She always told me her parents, all of them, they wouldn't go to bed angry. None of them would go to bed until they had made up with each other. They wouldn't go to bed angry. Just like this says, do not let the sun go down while you're still angry. And I remember loving that so much and being glad they did that and being jealous because my family didn't do stuff like that. I wish my family would have, done stuff like that as well. But yeah, that's a very, very good thing, because you never know who might not wake up in the morning, no matter what age they are. All right. Avoiding necessary conflict deepens anxiety, resentment, and bitterness, even when people avoiding conflict appear to be right. Inside, gnawing bitterness and resentment increase even with an adversary or enemy, Matthew 5:25. We should approach conflict quickly and in a Christ-like manner. Of course, this is also true when a brother or sister in Christ is involved, Matthew 18:15. A Christ-like approach throughout the Gospels. We see Jesus entering conflict. At times, this conflict was for redemptive purposes, like his loving confrontation with the woman at the well in Samaria in John 4. Remember that, where he asked her to get him some water? And they weren't supposed to talk because he was Jew and she's Samaritan, Gentile. At times, Jesus addressed difficult topics that involved his closest companions, such as his confronting of Peter in Matthew 16. Likewise, Jesus at times confronted those who purposely made themselves his enemy, like certain religious leaders in Matthew. At times, those conflicts involved stern warnings. At other times, they involved gentler guidance. In all conflict, Jesus' purposes were redemptive and instructive. Early in my own pastoral ministry, my church board and I developed a communication covenant to help prevent conflict. It also helped when conflict was necessary. As ground rules for reaching a redemptive solution, this covenant assisted us in not acting out of anger or rage. It also served as a way of moving quickly when conflict was necessary. It is based upon biblical principles, especially in key texts such as Matthew 5:21 through 25, Matthew 18:15 through 19, and Colossians 3:13. We call it Rules of the Road. And I have used this covenant for over 20 years, as well as seeing it published in various publications, including my own book on clergy ethics in Christian ministry, a guide for pastors and mentors, deacons, Beacon Hill Press of Kansas. Anyway, the covenant is as follows. If you have a problem with me, come to me privately. If I have a problem with you, I will come to you privately. A lot of people want to start screaming and getting other people involved to put on a show, you know. Those other people don't need to be involved. If someone has a problem with me and comes to you, send them to me. I will do the same for you. If someone consistently will not come to me, say, let's go to the pastor together. I will treat you the same way. Be careful how you interpret me. I would rather do that. Do not feel pressured to interpret my feelings or thoughts, since intentions can be easily misinterpreted. I will be careful about how I interpret you. If it is confidential, don't tell if anyone comes to me in confidence. I won't tell unless the person is going to harm himself, herself, or others. The person is planning to harm someone else, or someone, especially a child, has been physically or sexually abused. I expect the same standard from you. I do not read or respond to unsigned notes or letters. I will not manipulate, and I will not be manipulated. Do not let others manipulate you. And don't let anyone manipulate through you. Somebody's got a problem with you. They're talking to other people about you. Like, you got a friend and they're just talking really bad about another friend of yours or someone that ain't even your friend. That just shows what kind of person they are, because you're not supposed to judge others and gossip about others like that. You're not supposed to talk about people that way. So if they're going to talk about that person, they're going to talk about you behind your back as well to someone else. If they have a problem, they should take it to that person privately, like it says. But a lot of people just don't do that. When in doubt, just say it lovingly. Share your concerns, and let's work together to respond to those concerns factually and lovingly. All families and friends have conflict. It is normal and helpful. Consistent timing and prayerful communication can allow conflict to become a source of health and healing. That was a long one, guys. So I guess we found out conflict wasn't so bad after all sometimes. If it's good conflict. If it's done in a healthy way, so to speak, then. You can never judge. You never want to judge someone based on another person's opinions. Even if that person's your best friend and they're telling you something about somebody, they may have a grudge about that person for some reason. They may be jealous of that person for some reason and just don't like them and don't want to say that's the real reason and make up bad things about them. Get to know someone yourself. Don't listen to someone else's judgmental garbage that they're talking, because you don't know if that's true or not. Get to know the person yourself and see what kind of person they are. And you're not supposed to judge others anyway. Only God can judge. You shouldn't be talking about one another in a bad way. Especially telling lies, because God knows the truth, you know, and He knows when you're doing that. And God don't like lies. This one is by Julie Durham, and it is When Conflict Comes Home. Lord, I don't want to go home, I sighed. I was driving home from work and praying about the evening. I didn't know what the conflict would be, but I knew there'd be some nightmare waiting for me, because there always was. My stepmother to an angry, I was a stepmother to an angry 16-year-old who loved to make my life miserable, knew how to press my buttons, and lied to her dad about it. I would never want to live through those years again, but I did learn some coping methods to deal with conflict in what is supposed to be your safe space. Maybe some of these thoughts can help you. Realize conflict is often normal. Ella had been the queen of the house, and she did not like being dethroned when I married her dad. It helped me to realize that yes, of course she had anger and frustrations and stresses, Don't be afraid to seek counseling when there's conflict in the home. Look for physical problems. Is anyone sleep deprived, stressed over work or school issues, not eating right, dealing with depression or other issues? Conflict is more likely to happen when we are not at our best physically. Forgive. As my stepdaughter and I worked through tumultuous years, I had to keep forgiving her, and sometimes still do. And forgiving doesn't mean we don't have to set boundaries for what kind of behavior we'll tolerate. Learn communication techniques. At times during conflict, one of my kids has said respectfully, "I'd like to get some space and talk about this later." Getting away from the emotions of the moment can be very wise. It was a very mature thing to do. With another child, I have to make sure I hear her out before I explain my reasons for decisions, and I'm willing to reconsider my decision if she makes valid points. Use I statements instead of you. Statements, "I feel my instructions are being ignored," instead of "you are not obeying me." Look for the win-win compromise. Can be good. Think long term. It's tempting to throw in the towel with family conflicts, but when I'm tempted to, I realize I don't want to burn bridges permanently and sometimes change my communication. Role play tough decisions. A few years later, my husband was the one having problems with his daughter. So he practiced what he would say with me, pretending I was her, responding as I was pretty certain she would. That prepared him for a hard conversation. Create more good times, the bad times won't be as hard. Purposely spend time with the ones who sometimes rub you the wrong way, and make opportunities to laugh together. Laughter can mitigate a multitude of problems. Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Be willing to say, "I'm sorry." No one can get under your skin like family can. So true. But working through conflicts can move them from under your skin to close to your heart. So true. I always want to try to get along with everybody. Always try to get along with everybody, but you can't let someone push you around either. If they do that, then just, don't say nothing mean about them. Don't talk about them. Don't, cuss them out and want to fight them. Just, if that's the way you feel, if that's the way you're going to be, then, I don't need to associate with you in my life. I forgive you. I still love you. But I'm not going to put myself through this. I'm sorry, my throat's been like this for a few days. I feel like I can't breathe. I had to take my oxygen off to come in here. All right, the last one is beyond standard. Conflict resolution. Having trouble with conflict? Conflict is best managed when people on differing sides agree to some guidelines and ground rules for addressing the dispute. Such guidelines may be: stick to the issue, no character attacks, own your feelings rather than blaming others for them, avoid building highways that lead to hostilities. Conflict is better managed as involved parties work to discover the issues, keeping in mind that the surface issue is not always the most significant issue. The words and behaviors given to us in Ephesians 4:25 through 32 are an absolute treasure of wisdom. For not only managing, but also avoiding and resolving conflict. Take time this week to read and ponder these verses, identifying and reflecting on the various parts of the counsel given, and even asking God's Spirit to help you with scriptures that fit your present needs. Remember, it's always good to have scriptures remembered. You never know when one's going to come in handy. Just like the woman in our Bible devotion today, on our Bible reading, that kept seeing the number 316 everywhere when she was having problems. 316 on a bottle, 316 on the clock. And that was God's sign to her. John 3:16. Remember that and tell yourself that. And she set her alarm, and she set her alarm for 3:16 p.m. for every day. And every day she would remember that verse and thank the Lord for what he done for us. Okay, where did I leave off? Identifying and reflecting on the various parts of the counsel given, and even asking God's Spirit to help you with scriptures that fit your present needs. The entirety of Matthew 5, which is a portion of Jesus' words that we refer to as the Sermon on the Mount, is also loaded with wisdom that can help you avoid and even transform conflict. The words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Proverbs 12:18. So true. Use your mouth. God made you. You're an example to the Lord. You're an example to the Lord here on this earth. You're supposed to let people see Christ in you, so don't let them hear bad things coming out of your mouth. Only let good things come out of your mouth. That's a good thing to practice. That's a good thing to practice on. I think we all can get better with that. Not saying bad things like the devil wants us to, but only saying good things. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the last Bible lesson that I have for now. Like I said, I don't know if I'll get any more or not, but if I do, of course, I will share them with you guys. But this right now ends the Bible lessons, and I hope you guys enjoyed the last one. Good night, guys.